I'm going to show you 10 Idaho towns that should not exist in 2026. And I mean that literally. One of them sits right next to a site where the US government tested nuclear reactors. Another one was basically swallowed by a canyon and nobody moved. A few of them have more history than population, and the population is already in the double digits. This video is basically a secret map of the places that got left behind. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Let's get into it. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Number 1, Wallace. Wallace, Idaho once declared itself the center of the universe. They put a manhole cover in the middle of the road and held an actual ceremony about it. That's not a joke. That's Tuesday in Wallace. So here's the setup. Wallace sits squeezed inside a narrow canyon in the Silver Valley, and at its peak, it was one of the richest silver mining towns on the planet. We're talking Titanic money rich. Guys were building literal mansions right next to mine shafts. But here's what nobody tells you. The whole town is sitting on top of a Superfund site. The EPA flagged the entire Silver Valley as one of the largest lead contamination zones in US history. Kids were testing for blood lead levels that would have sent the CDC into full panic mode. And everyone was just living there, growing food in poisoned soil, sending their kids to school. Let that sink in. The population has been bleeding out for decades. Wallace peaked around 3,000 people and now sits closer to 700. And the reason the downtown still looks like a 1940s Western movie set is because the town got itself listed on the National Register of Historic Places, partly just to stop a highway from being bulldozed straight through it. They landmarked the whole town as a legal blocking move. That actually worked. So Wallace is frozen now. Beautifully, creepily frozen. The buildings are real, the history is real, but the 700 people left are either deeply committed or just haven't Googled the soil reports yet. And if you thought a Superfund site under your feet was the weirdest entry on this list, the next place somehow made weird a competitive sport. Number 2, Pierce. Pierce, Idaho is where the whole state basically began. First gold discovery, 1860. Thousands of miners flooded in practically overnight. It was loud, it was chaotic, it was alive. And then the gold ran out. Today, Pierce has around 500 people and a lumber mill that spent decades closing and reopening like a bad relationship you keep going back to. The oldest public building in Idaho is here. A courthouse built in 1862. It's a museum now, because of course it is. Your phone dies about 20 minutes before you arrive and comes back 20 minutes after you leave. No stoplight. Barely a gas station. You can still pan for gold nearby, which is a great hobby and a terrible economy. But Pierce at least had a reason to exist once. The next town on this list exists for a reason that is so specific and so strange, it almost doesn't feel real. Number 3, Elk River. Elk River has 130 people. 130. That's not a town. That's a large family reunion with a post office. The whole place started as a logging camp, and the Potlatch Lumber Company basically ran everything. The mill, the railroad, all of it. Then Potlatch left. And when the company that is literally the reason your town exists just drives away, you don't bounce back from that. The nearest grocery store is over an hour away. Let that sink in. The school is in danger of closing. The people who stay are retirees, hunters, and folks who use off-the-grid completely without irony. And here's the thing. It's genuinely beautiful. The forests are real. The elk are actually there. But beauty doesn't keep a school open or pay property taxes. Elk River is shrinking so slowly it almost looks like it's standing still, and somehow that's the most unsettling part. So that's 3 towns where the economy just evaporated. But the next one has a completely different problem. It's not that the economy left, it's that the landscape itself is trying to erase it. Number 4, Hagerman. Hagerman is built in a valley that used to be the floor of a prehistoric lake, and the ground there is still acting like it remembers. The town sits along the Snake River, and it's famous for 2 things. a fossil bed full of ancient horse bones, and hot springs that bubble up like the earth is running a fever. The Hagerman horse is literally Idaho's state fossil. The whole area is UNESCO recognized. But here's what nobody tells you. That same geology that makes scientists lose their minds also makes the ground genuinely unstable. The Snake River Plain runs on the same volcanic hotspot system that powers Yellowstone. The hot springs aren't cute. They're a warning. And the Snake River has flooded Hagerman repeatedly, so the town stays small and tucked in tight against the canyon like it knows better than to spread out. Around 900 people live there, and that number hasn't budged in decades. The canyon walls above town have a history of rock slides, so you've got floods from one side and falling rocks from the other. The fossils in the ground are millions of years old. The town is barely 130 years old. The Earth was here first, and it acts like it knows that. And if geological instability sounds scary, the next town on this list took that concept and added nuclear reactors to the mix. Number 5, Arco. In 1955, Arco, Idaho became the first city in the world powered entirely by nuclear energy, for about an hour. Then they cut the connection, and that was basically it. Arco sits on the edge of the Snake River Plain, surrounded by lava fields that look like the moon took a wrong turn. The Idaho National Laboratory is 18 miles out. 890 square miles of government-owned high desert where they've been testing nuclear reactors since the late 1940s. But here's what nobody tells you. In 1961, a reactor called SL-1 exploded. 3 workers died. One was impaled to the ceiling by a control rod. The bodies were so radioactive they had to be buried in lead-lined coffins. 18 miles from where families in Arco were eating breakfast. The INL never really fed Arco economically either. Those jobs go to people commuting from Idaho Falls. So Arco gets the risk and none of the reward. The neon signs and mid-century storefronts are genuinely charming. There's even a hillside where every graduating class paints their year, going back decades. It's sweet. It's also a town that peaked before color TV and never found its second act. But Arco at least has 900 people. The next town on this list makes Arco look like a metropolis. Number 6, Atomic City. Atomic City has 25 people. Not 2,500. 20. 5. The name is not a joke. They genuinely thought this place was going to boom. The idea was that all those INL scientists and workers would need somewhere to live. So Atomic City planted its flag in the desert and waited. They picked Idaho Falls instead. An hour away, with hospitals and restaurants and, you know, other humans. So what's left? A bar, a few houses, lava fields stretching out in every direction like the Earth just gave up. The sky is so dark at night you can see the Milky Way, which is beautiful and also means there is absolutely nothing else out there. And if you think a town of 25 people next to a nuclear site is the peak of this list, hold on. The next place has a completely different kind of abandonment story, one that involves a canyon, a river, and a lot of broken dreams. Number 7, Glenn's Ferry. Glenn's Ferry is the spot on the Oregon Trail where pioneers had to cross the Snake River, and a lot of them didn't make it. The current was strong, the water was deep, and some wagons just went under. That energy never really left. There's a state park there now with interpretive signs, which is Idaho's way of saying, we know this was bad, here's a brochure. But here's the catch. The town has about 1,200 people, and I-84 runs right through it. You'd think highway access would help. It doesn't. The highway is basically just an escape route. Downtown has that hollow core feel where stores closed and nothing replaced them. From a town defined by people passing through to a town that feels paused mid-sentence. The next one has a silence that's hard to explain until you've been there. Number 8, Shosonyi. Shosonyi has a hotel built in 1903 that people check out of at midnight. Not because they got a better deal somewhere else, Because something in that building freaks them out badly enough to leave in the dark. I'm not saying it's haunted. I'm also not saying that. And here's the thing. Under the town itself, there are actual lava tubes, frozen ones, volcanic tunnels with ice inside them that never melts, sitting right beneath your feet. The surface looks fine. Courthouse is open, streets are maintained. But the economy is flat, the young people are gone, and there's an emptiness underneath Shosonyi you feel before you can explain it. Number 9, Chalice. Chalice sits where the Salmon River and Chalice Creek meet, and that sounds gorgeous until the river decides it wants its land back. And it has. Multiple times. Here's the thing. Custer County is the second biggest county in Idaho by area and has about 4,000 people total. The whole county. Chalice itself has maybe 1,000. The nearest city is 115 miles away. Highway 93 gets you there. But in winter, that road turns into something that'll make you seriously reconsider every life choice you've ever made. Staying in Chalice isn't a lifestyle. It's a daily decision. You plan doctor visits around road conditions. You grocery shop like a prepper. And then there's the last town on this list. A place so isolated, it almost feels like a test. Number 10, Waipa. Waipa has 400 people, and the nearest stoplight might as well be in a different time zone. That's not an exaggeration. That's just Tuesday. But here's what nobody tells you about this place. This is where the Nez Perce met Lewis and Clark in 1805. The Corps of Discovery had basically crawled out of the Bitterroot Mountains half-starved and falling apart. The Nez Perce fed them and saved the whole expedition. There's a small historical marker. That's it. The timber mills that kept Waipa alive are mostly gone now. The population was over 600 not long ago, and it's still dropping. The Nez Perce saved Lewis and Clark right here on this prairie, and the town that grew up on that ground is quietly disappearing. So here's the pattern. Every single one of these towns was built around one thing. One industry, one resource, one reason to exist. Wallace had silver. Pierce had gold. Elk River had timber. Arco and Atomic City had nuclear optimism. Glenn's Ferry had people passing through. Shoshone had the railroad. Chalice had ranching. Waipa had timber again. And when that one thing left, none of them had a backup plan. The houses in these places are genuinely cheap. Like, embarrassingly cheap. You can buy a house in Atomic City for the price of a used Honda. But cheap housing with no jobs, no hospital within an hour, and a school that might close next year isn't a deal. It's a trap that a lot of people walk into once and spend years climbing back out of. Would you live in a town where the nearest ER is 2 hours away and the ground under you is either radioactive, volcanic, or just hollow? Drop a yes or a hard no in the comments. And subscribe, because Idaho has way more of these than anyone wants to admit.